Straight from the chest. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm your host, Justin Groth. Another Sunday episode. What are you doing on this Sunday? As for me, I'm just waiting until my cheat meal. That's the pinnacle of my Sunday. And I think I might have pizza today, and that's just unnerving because I haven't had pizza in such a long time, and I love pizza. But other than that, my Sundays are quite uneventful, and I think a lot on Sundays. I have a lot of time to myself on Sundays, and it gets me ready for the week. I do some things for my business, but I also like to reflect a lot, and then obviously do my podcast. That's another eventful thing in the day. But I really am pondering the question I have been lately: what is my biggest hurdle in life? And so I ask you the same thing. What's your biggest hurdle in life right now? Not what you've gone through. What's your biggest hurdle to date right now that you're going through? Most of you are probably thinking, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay my kids' college tuition? Some of you are thinking probably, how do I start this business? And I think a lot about the same things, but a lot of what I think we miss out on is the biggest hurdle in life, and that is the unknown. Being led rather, blindly into the unknown. Because most of us, we don't understand or know what tomorrow is going to hold, but we want to know. And we want to know what the next year or 2 years has to hold for us. And if you're like me, you're anxious, but you're not anxious because you can't wait. You're anxious to apply the intent and the action necessary to get things going. I don't know if that makes any sense. To me, in my head, it does. But I'm not anxious like a kid in a candy store waiting to get candy and I just can't wait to get home to eat it or anything like that. That's not the angst that I'm speaking of. I'm talking about I can't wait to be used because I know that I have more to give. And maybe some of you are in the same situation. You don't know when it's going to take off for you or if it's going to take off. And the unknown is by far the biggest hurdle you'll have in your life. Because the unknown it seems like it's taking forever. But in my life, and in yours probably as well, there are episodes or events that take place in your life that get you from one end to the next. And they kind of satisfy you one season of your life, or a person satisfies you one season of your life, or a business that you start satisfies you in one season of your life. But you know that there's so much more that you can do. There's so much more that you could give. And you know that you could be used on a much bigger platform. And because these things are calling at you, and the innate desire to capitalize on those things resides in you, but the opportunity hasn't manifested itself yet. You're waiting on the opportunity. And in the meanwhile, in the downtime, it's hard for you to just follow blindly. I imagine it like I'm just following Jesus. His hand is in my hand and I got a blindfold on. And I don't know where he's taking me. And I can't see anything. But I know that he's led many people to their success. And if I just shut up and keep my eyes shut, even though I got the blindfold on, and so it's keeping me dark, it's keeping me in the dark no matter what. But if I take it a step further and keep my eyes shut amidst the blindfold, and I just take and put one foot over the other, and I don't worry about time, and I don't worry about when it's going to stop or end, or when he's going to say, take the blindfold off now, son. This is where I want you to start now. This is where I want you to put in your action now. This is where I want you now. If I just continuously press and do what I know best, which for me, I can't speak for any of you, but for me, that's personal training. That's personal training sessions, one person at a time, one day at a time. And I'm keeping authentic and integral in that construct. I know that one day, I don't know when, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know one day something's going to change. There's going to be a halt in my step. There's going to be a time where he's going to say, take your blindfold off, son, and I want you to now view what I have for you. There's going to be a time that's going to come. And you know what? People, it might come in a pain or as a pain. It might come as a pain or it might come as a gain. But there inevitably is going to come a change in the course of your life. Me too. I can feel it. There's something that's going to happen. There's something. I don't know what it is, and I don't know when it's coming, but I know that I can't lose if I continuously press every day in the authentic notion that I know best and press through with integrity every day. And make sure that I'm not leaving any stone unturned here in terms of any conversation with anybody or relationship or anything of ethics that I produce. I hope that makes sense. I got to make sure that no stone is unturned in that regard, and I'll be fine. But I got to keep putting one foot over the other. And I know that seems monotonous and tumultuous, but that's your only option. But that is your biggest hurdle, not your rent, dude. Not how you're going to feed your kids, not how you're going to feed yourself. That's your biggest hurdle, is when am I going to come into my purpose? When is that thing that's brewing inside me going to manifest itself? I hope that that is your biggest hurdle, because if it's not, I really believe that you're suppressing what gifts and talents he's given you. If you don't have an urgency or an angst residing in you, in a good way, but if it's not residing in you to display or to produce something that's more purposeful in your life than just your side jobs you got going now, then that, for some reason, that doesn't exist. That should exist. Because everything is revolved around your purpose, what he's put in you to give to others to do on this planet. There is nothing else. And I've spoke about it a lot. That's the premise of this podcast. It's a personal development podcast. I'm trying to develop myself in the process. I believe these things can help you. But these are the same things that I struggle with. I struggle with, when am I going to get to that point? And it's nothing more than I can do right now. I'm living intentfully every day. I'm living into what I feel like I'm good at. And I'm focusing on that. And there's clarity to what I'm doing. It's not in fragments. There's not a dispersion of, whoa, I got to go here, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. Now, I'm clear on what I'm supposed to do. But I know there's something bigger. I know there's something that has more intent behind it. I know it. And my biggest hurdle is waiting. My biggest hurdle is just putting one foot in front of the other and allowing my leader to lead me and me just follow blindly. It's my biggest hurdle. But I know and I can feel, well, I don't know anything other than I know I'm alive today. But I feel in every fiber of me, I feel that there's something going to change. And it might not be in my favor. It might be in my pain. But something has got to give. Something. Something has to give. And it's either going to give in the gain or it's going to be given to me as a pain. But either way, because I'm being led by God and I'm being led by somebody who's led everybody into their successes, I know that I'm in good hands. And all I have to do is be able to follow blindly into the unknown, into where I don't understand and what I can't see and what can't be told to me and what cannot be illustrated. I gotta just continue to follow blindly because that's really my only option. It's the best, but it's the only option. I can try to speed things up if I like, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna get further. I can try to speed the course of things and become more ambitious and grind more and do more, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to get a lot more done. I just got to continuously follow. We all have to. That's our biggest challenge, is following blindly. I have desires just like you have desires. I have dreams just like you have dreams. I can see more on the horizon, but I can't depict what it is. I know that what he's doing through me is something greater. I know that you feel the same way. It may not be on the same level as me, but I know that you feel the same way. It may be a greater level. You may be farther along than I am in terms of the urgency. For that, you have to remain still. Because you can mess this thing up. You could get too far in front of you, of your own self, and mess it up and miss the opportunity. Because you're too anxious. I gotta step back sometimes, and I gotta reflect on what's being done and where I'm at. And although everything around me is a blessing, and I'm grateful for everything, I know that it's a season. And I know that there's some other thing bigger that he wants to do through me. And I know that that is going to come. And it might come in the way of a pain or a gain, but I know he's going to use it for my progression, ultimately. And I'm open to either, even though the pain is going to suck if that's what it was. I want to gain, right? We all want the gain because that's less stressful. But sometimes to gain, there has to be pain. I don't know how he's orchestrating it right now. That's not my job to understand that. My job is to just lead by faith and understanding that he's got me, like he's got you. Again, it's going to look different for all of us. But we have to just remain silent and in faith that he's got the steps and he knows what he's doing. my pain might end up being a gain. Yeah. My pain's going to be a gain if that's where he takes me. And whatever the enemy uses as something to drive me off course, I know God can use that too. He's bigger. He's better. And God knows that I'm not big enough to challenge the enemy. And that's why he vindicates for me. And that's why I don't have to. All I have to do, and this may seem submissive, passive, but this is the strongest thing that you can display. The strongest part of you that you can display is by being still. That's the number one thing that most of us don't have, is the strength to remain still and be passive, knowing that who's in front of you, guiding you, is bigger and already understands things thousands of years before he even put them into practice for you. And it's hard because we have social media. We compare and contrast where we are with where somebody else is. And we may think that that person has what I have, or that person says things like I say things, or that person sounds like me, or that person dresses like me, or everything. I see myself in that person. And that person's like my age. Why am I not where he is? Why am I not where she's at? Listen, you're not that person. And because of that, you're not meant to lead in their path. You may think that you're like that person. You may think you have the same talents as that person, but you were not meant to be that person. And because of that, you're meant to be you. You were meant to be the first you, not an extension of that person. If you think you're like a Tony Robbins, you're not a Tony Robbins. Because nobody's a Tony Robbins. Because Tony Robbins is Tony Robbins is Tony Robbins. And you were meant to be you, not an extension of Tony Robbins. So the same way that you may deliver a message is not supposed to be like him. You're supposed to deliver it in the way that God manifested you to deliver it. The way God orchestrated you to deliver it. That's it. You're the first you. You're not an extension of anybody else. And that's where we can also have a blunder in our life. Because we believe that we should be in line with this person and in the linear trajectory that this person has been on in their life. Because we're a lot alike, right? We think the same way. We deliver the same way. Heck, we even dress the same way. But you are not an extension of that person. That's not what your God created you to be. He didn't create you to be an extension of anybody. He created you to be the first and the ever utmost person. He created you to be the first person of your kind. That's it. But you get bogged down with thinking that you're supposed to be like this person. Or you get bogged down and depressed and start suppressing your innate desires because you're not trailing like that person's trailing right now in their life. You don't have the same successes as them. It's easy to get clouded by the enemy's lies. It's easy to get jaded by what the enemy wants you to think. But you got to fight against that urge. You got to fight against that urge to compare yourself to someone else's game. You got to fight against that urge that says, well, look at this person. They're where you are. And they look at what they've got. They've got notice. They've got all these followers. They got all these. It doesn't matter. You're not that person. You're not that person. And you're not in that same person's category because you are in a category of your own. And that is where you reside. And that is where you keep producing. You don't care or worry about anybody else's shift. You got your own shift. You're not an extension of that person. You're your own person. You're your own entity. You're your own trajectory. God's got something individualized to you. Individualized, orchestrated, precisely, specifically for you. It doesn't look like anybody else's thing. It doesn't look like anybody else's path because it's designed for just you. Keep reinstilling that in your brain every day. And if it takes you having to get off social media, get off social media. Man, don't allow people to get you off course because they believe that you should be where this person is or where that person is. People are not I don't even want to say it. People are not your leader. People are not your vindicators. People are not your path. You have to lead, be led, and follow your leader, which is Christ, which is God. He's got everything mapped out for you. And your only job, apart from what you do day to day, your only job is to be led blindly in the path that He has orchestrated for you. All you need to do is continuously and not suppress the urgency and the desires that He's ingrained in you. Once that bleeds out, you die. Don't allow others and their infection to start to allow you to bleed internally out of every orifice. Don't allow their negative illustrations of what they think you are or where you're going and to derail you from where you know you belong. Don't allow their infectious thoughts to allow you to bleed out. You bleed out, you die. Biggest hurdle in life, biggest, is believing that there's more for you and being able to be led blindly until the day that you're told to take your blindfold off.